Welcome back to the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Duffy. I am Mike McGivern. Thanks so much for joining us as we get you ready for the 10 a.m. kickoff as the Crusaders from Catholic Memorial take on the Tritons from Notre Dame for the Division III state title, followed by the Division II game between Slinger and Rice Lake. Let's take a look at the Warriors from Rice Lake. They are the defending Division III champion from last year, moved up to Division II this year. The Warriors are making their 9th trip to the state final, and it's 3rd in the past 4 seasons. They tied for 2nd place in the Big Rivers Conference with an 11-2 overall record. We're now joined by Zac Bellman. He's a preps writer for Journal-Sentinel. I read everything he writes on JS Online, and I thank him for a couple of minutes of his time. Hey, Zac, when you talk Division II football, Rice Lake has been there, right? It's a great program, had a lot of success. They are now playing Slinger, who hasn't been to state in a long time. And I know that Bill Jacklin and his staff and that entire community are very excited about the season the Owls have had. You got one more hurdle, and that hurdle with Rice Lake is going to be a difficult one for them.
Absolutely. Stories abound in this one, whether it be, Dan Hill and the experience that he's had having been there 4 times before. He talked in his coach's presser on Sunday about just avoiding the distractions and, just treating this week like any other as best you can do that on such a busy, kind of week, and everyone wants to feed you and everyone wants to host you and all that stuff. And, it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that. And then, on Slinger's end as well, just a really impressive run for them so far. I'm really intrigued about how the pacing of this game goes. I think if it becomes a shootout, a high-scoring game, I think that really favors Slinger. If it stays low-scoring, long possessions, I think it could favor Rice Lake. And for Slinger having that opportunity to knock off 2 defending champions in level 4 and level 5, beating Badger in level 4, that would be quite the finish to their season.
Boy, we talked about the quarterback at Slinger, and I don't know how much credit he gets. This kid makes big plays, and he makes big plays with his feet, but boy, he can spin it. He can throw it. He stands in that pocket, and if it breaks down, he's always got his eyes down the field, and he makes some really good throws. And it's interesting because Bill talks about his best friends on the team are all on the defense. And so their practice, there's a lot of chirping going on between him and his buddies on the defensive side. And Bill also said, look, I don't know if I've ever had a team that hangs out together as much as this team does. And they play for each other, and the love they have as a football team, he said, is just really impressive. He said, I don't want the season to end. I'd love to win a state championship, but can we get a couple more games after that so I can hang out with these guys? And that's a great recipe, I think, when you're trying to win a state championship, if your team is together and they hang out together and they're playing for each other. And certainly that's what Slinger does.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you see it in the way they play complementary football, and that's just, that's caring about the guy next to you and wanting to make plays for the guy next to you. And I think that's something that's definitely been a strength of this Slinger team. Coach talked about it again in that presser about just, it's a different guy every week in a lot of these close games that they've had guys step up. And I think that's a testament to, a team that doesn't rely on 1 or 2 guys. Obviously Michael Theed at quarterback has done a tremendous job this season, but to the rest of the team's credit, it's a different guy every week, kind of stepping up for them that has helped bring them to this point.
And what's interesting is the constant has been that offensive line. They've done a nice job, and they're not. It's not a huge offensive line, but I'll tell you, there's some fight to those guys, and I've watched them a couple of times, and I can tell you the offensive line does a great job for the running backs and keeping Theedy upright. And got to give them a lot of credit. That first quarter, I think, in this game in Division II is going to be really important. Rice Lake has been there before. They know the template, right? They've been on that field. They've been in that stadium, and I think Slinger Owl is going to have to take a deep breath and get through that first quarter and either be ahead, be even, or just behind a little bit for them to understand that they belong there. And I think that first quarter is going to tell us a lot about the Division II state championship.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you see it so often, with these young high school athletes across state tournaments. It's who can make that first momentum, clinching play that really sets the tone for the rest of the game. That first big hit, that first long touchdown in football. I definitely would be looking at how the first quarter plays out, both from a pacing and obviously scoring perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that. Talking to Coach Jacklin, he said last week when they left to go play Badger, he said the street in Slinger, the streets were lined with people with signs and all of this, all wearing their Slinger Owl gear. And he said, "Look, I we haven't been through something like this before, and it was so exciting for our community and our school. And then the fan buses were following us." And he said, "Look, we that excitement." It took us a little bit to kind of come down from that, and I'm hoping that to go up to Madison and to do it the way we're talking about doing it as a staff is to make sure that we have enough time when we get there to have our kids kind of relax a little bit and understand, okay, all the fun part now is over. Let's go win a football game. And I think that that's a really good template for Slinger, and I hope that they can get their kids under control that first quarter and just play the way they've been playing all year. And I think they have a chance to beat Rice Lake. I think Rice Lake would probably be the favorite. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, I think you can't underestimate, just the value of having been there before and, coming off a state title. I think that is something when you talk about energy management and you talk about, avoiding distractions, I feel like is such a big asset that they have going for them going into this week. And I think, as a result, you got to look at them, with just a slight edge, I would say at least, for sure.
Yep. So Zach, and I know that you do a little deer hunting. I know you're going to do that, but then you'll transition to basketball, and I'll be in touch, getting you and Michael into my studio, and we talk a little bit on my radio show. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and enjoy this state championship day.
Always a pleasure. Thanks so much, Mike.
You bet. Thank you. We're getting really close. Division III kickoff. Prior to that, we're going to be looking at Division I. This is the Current Electric High School Football State Championship Preview Show presented by Cannon and Duffy only on My 24.